Well, welcome back to another Waynosfotos video, and this video is about the question, are the modern race bikes flawed? And it's a question that we need to ask because as we've traveled through time, the bikes and the technology has changed. But what do I mean by flawed? Let's roll that intro and then we can get right into the video. Well, when I mean flawed, I mean they're not as versatile or easy to live with as the older bikes. And I'm going to go through the different technologies that we have and why I believe that's the case. Now, if we go back in time, bicycles were, even a fixie, were pretty damn simple, and they just had like a basic brake either on the back wheel or back wheel and front wheel, and you just had one gear. And then we added gears so we could keep a constant cadence to match the speed of the bicycle that we had, and that made it easier for climbing and also going faster. It didn't just have a one cog, a set speed. So that was a good invention, but everything still maintained that it was mechanical. Now, as we moved through time, we saw that we had electric gears develop, which wasn't really a change from mechanical to electric fully. It wasn't like, we had electric hubs that changed gears, but it was electrical shifting. And this had some beneficial because it didn't vary, the cables didn't stretch. And we also moved from external cabling to internal cabling, where the cables weren't quite as perfect as they were when they were outside, because you're having to go through straw and all this sort of stuff, and the gears had got more, and the shifting didn't become as refined as it was when we had external cabling with less gears on the bike. So then we had this electronic shifting, and that was really popular, and a lot of people love that. But it creates another complication. Then you have to have batteries, they need to be charged. You have to have some sort of waterproofing. You've got electronic circuitries with coding and applications that need to run them. And all of these things create more complications. And as we know, apps and everything never work 100% perfect. There's always some flaws in the coding. And also, then you've got connections and moisture, and if you're going at different altitudes, there's different pressures, and this can actually affect your electronic components. And I've seen this with lights that I've had on my bike. Like if you ride them in the rain, especially if you go up mountains and altitudes, they stop working and then they come back on working, or they stop working, or they partly work and don't work properly anymore. I've seen it. So electronics is affected by that sort of thing. And if you go traveling, also, when you go on a plane, you have much different pressures that can affect your electronics as well, with batteries and all those sorts of things. And then you've got complications of taking the batteries off the bike. You're supposed to keep them in the cabin, all these sorts of things. So it makes the bike a lot more difficult to travel with if you want to put it on an aeroplane and go somewhere on holidays. And then we had the introduction of hydraulic systems. They wanted to bring the brakes from the mountain bike sector to the road bike sector, because they believed that they were better. They wanted to change the design of the bikes, and the argument was, hey, look, these are hydraulically assisted brakes and they brake better. All of the things that they wanted to have those brakes on the modern bike. Now, I have different arguments for that. I can see the argument for disc brakes. I can see the argument for ring brakes, but I think when you weigh up the pros and cons, then the disc brakes have significant disadvantages. It's not like as if everything about them is better. They have disadvantages as well. So that's disc brakes. But even if we say, hey, look, disc brakes are really good, they're mature now, they work fine, blah, blah, blah. Then if you go and travel with them, then you've got another problem. You've got another system you need to work with, which is hydraulics. And the hydraulics is something that it's not a completely sealed system. It has an air pocket at the top, which is actually in your handles, your brake handles. And this this actually causes an issue, because if the bike is not kept upright, then you can get bubbles that travel down through the oil, and then you're going to get these bubbles which can compress compared to the oil. So when you come to get off at the other end and you got to use your brakes, then they're not going to work properly. And especially if you have to take your handlebars off and move them to a different position to get them in the bike, because a lot of aeroplanes have very specific sizes for bikes. You can't just get a big bike and drop the bike in. The aeroplane rules just won't allow it. So that's another problem you have when you want to travel with these bicycles from one country to another. They're not as easy to dismantle and reassemble as they were years ago with the old mechanical systems. I mean, with the old mechanical systems, you get off the airport, you could build the bike at the airport and just ride off. With these new modern bikes, it's a bit more complicated. So these are the flaws that we have. Yes, the modern bike's fine if you just want to ride it out of your garage and ride around the block and all that sort of stuff, that's fine. But if you want to use your bike and you want to travel remote, or you want to go overseas, there's complications. And because all of these parts are generally proprietary, if you go to anywhere remote, or you're riding to anywhere remote and you have a failure of a component, generally these bike shops won't hold the parts. You have to order it. It's like you can't just get the bike going in an afternoon, or you can't just jig it as you would with a mechanical type bike and then get yourself on the road and riding away. The part is failed, it won't work, and it can't be easily fixed by a bike mechanic in a shop. So that's one of the big negatives. It's also the same with hydraulic systems and so forth. And now we've also got the introduction of wires and hydraulics going through the frame. And when they go through the frame, this actually adds an extra layer of complication, because if you want to disassemble the bike to travel with it, then again, you have complications, because all of these things now are not just outside. You can just undo the handlebars, take the handlebar off, put it down the side near the fork. They're all integrated. So you've got this added complexity, because they're all cut to fit perfectly, to fit the internal routing. So this makes the bike, it's not as flexible as the old bikes. Yes, it works. Yes, it has this technology on it. But if you want to use it for a bike and you want to travel and you want to do this, you want to go remote, whatever, it doesn't have the same flexibility as the older style mechanical type bikes. Anyway, guys, have you had any problems like these where you've been kind of caught out with these modern bikes? You haven't been able to get parts, your bike's been off the road for more than a few days? If you have, leave your comments down below. Let us know. Let us share our experiences with these modern bikes, and then we can sort of see if this is actually a real thing, where that they're impeding people being able to ride their bike, or if it's just Wayno's just overreacting. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to leave it, and I'll see you next vid.